Can cleverness triumph over poverty? Can a simple cat change a poor man's fate? What if the greatest gift wasn't gold or land, but wit? This is a timeless tale of wit and fortune. This is a tale of Puss in Boots. A poor miller died, leaving behind only 3 possessions to divide among his 3 sons. The eldest received the mill itself. The second inherited the donkey, and to the youngest only a cat. The young man despaired. "My brothers can work together," he said, "but what am I to do with only a cat? Once I've made fur muff from his pelt, I shall surely starve." The cat, who had heard everything but pretended not to notice, spoke up calmly. "Do not despair, master," said the cat. "Give me a bag and have a pair of boots made for me, so I may walk through the brambles. You will find I am more useful than you think." Though puzzled, the young man had so little to lose that he agreed. The cat put lettuce and grain in his bag and laid it open on the ground. Then he stretched out as if dead, waiting with great patience. Soon a young rabbit, drawn by the fresh greens, hopped into the bag. In an instant the cat pulled the strings tight. His first prize was caught. The cat went straight to the palace and requested an audience with the king. "Your Majesty," said the cat with a deep bow, "I bring you a rabbit from the lands of my noble master, the Marquis of Carabas. He wishes you to accept this humble gift." "Tell your master," replied the king, pleased by the courtesy, "that I thank him and am delighted by his thoughtfulness." For 2 or 3 months the cat continued bringing game to the king, always claiming the gift from the Marquis of Carabas. Each time the king accepted graciously, and the name of this mysterious marquis grew more and more familiar at court. One day the cat learned that the king would be taking a drive along the riverside with his daughter, the most beautiful princess in the world. "Master," said the cat urgently, "follow my instructions exactly, and your fortune is made. Go bathe in the river at the spot I show you, and leave the rest to me." The puzzled young man obeyed, though he could not imagine what the cat had planned. While his master bathed, the cat hid the shabby clothes beneath a large stone. Then he ran towards the king's carriage, crying out desperately, "Help! Help! My master, the Marquis of Carabas, is drowning. Thieves have stolen his clothes and pushed him into the river." The king immediately recognized the name of the generous marquis who had sent him so many gifts. "Quickly," commanded the king, "bring fine clothes from my wardrobe for the Marquis of Carabas." When the young man was dressed in royal garments, he looked so handsome that the king's daughter found him very much to her liking, and the king invited him to join him in the carriage. Delighted to see his plan working, the cat ran ahead of the carriage with great speed. He came upon peasants mowing a meadow and called out to them sternly. "Good people who are mowing," said the cat, "if you do not tell the king that this meadow belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, you will all be chopped up like mincemeat." The peasants, frightened by the cat's fierce tone, promised to do as he said. When the king's carriage passed by, the king asked, "Who owns this fine meadow?" "The Marquis of Carabas, Your Majesty," they all replied. "You have a fine estate," said the king to the man, who bowed modestly. The cat ran ahead and found harvesters in the wheat field. "Good harvesters," he declared, "if you do not say this grain belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, you will be chopped up like mincemeat." The frightened workers agreed at once. Moments later, when the king passed and asked who owned such abundant fields, they answered, "The Marquis of Carabas." The king grew more and more impressed by his young marquis's vast wealth. The cat went ahead of the carriage the entire way, and everywhere he met workers in fields, vineyards, and forests. To each group he gave the same stern warning, and to each question from the king the answer was always the same: "It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas." The king was astonished by the young man's immense fortune. At last the cat arrived at a magnificent castle. It was the home of the richest ogre ever known. In truth, all the lands the king had passed through belonged to this ogre. The cat, who had carefully learned all about him, requested to speak with the master of the castle. The ogre received him as civilly as an ogre can and bid him sit down. "I have been told," said the cat respectfully, "that you possess the most extraordinary power, that you can transform yourself into any creature you wish. Is it true you can become a lion or even an elephant?" "It is true," boomed the ogre proudly, "and I shall prove it to you." Instantly, the ogre transformed into a huge, ferocious lion. The cat was so terrified that he scrambled up to the rafters, though this was difficult in his boots, which were not made for climbing. When the ogre returned to his normal form, the cat came down trembling. "That was truly remarkable," gasped the cat. "But surely some transformations are impossible. I've heard you can even become a tiny creature, like a rat or a mouse. That seems too incredible to believe." "Impossible?" roared the ogre, offended. "Watch." In an instant he transformed into a small mouse that ran across the floor. The cat immediately pounced upon it and ate it up, and that was the end of the ogre. Meanwhile, the king's carriage arrived at the beautiful castle. The king wished to enter this magnificent fortress. The cat, hearing the carriage rumbling over the drawbridge, ran out to greet him. "Welcome, Your Majesty, to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas," announced the cat with a grand bow. "What?" cried the king in amazement. "Does this castle also belong to you, Marquis? Nothing could be finer than this hall and these furnishings. Let us dine, if you please." By fortunate chance, the ogre had prepared a great feast for friends who were to visit that day, though they dared not enter when they learned that the king was there. The king, charmed by the good qualities of the Marquis of Carabas, and noticing how his daughter had fallen in love with him, said after several glasses of wine, "It would please me greatly, Marquis, if you became my son-in-law." The young man, bowing deeply, accepted the king's offer with gratitude. That very day he married the princess. From a miller's son with nothing but a cat, he had become a marquis, a prince, and a happy man. As for the cat, he became a great lord. He never needed to chase mice for food, except occasionally for his own amusement. His clever wit had transformed both his master's fate and his own. And so we learn that while inheritance and wealth may open doors, it is cleverness, courage, and resourcefulness that truly change one's fortune. The miller's son had no gold, no land, and no title, but he had something more valuable, a clever friend and a wisdom to trust him. Remember, the greatest advantage is not always what we inherit, but the wit to make the most of what we are given. A clever mind and a brave heart can turn even the humblest beginnings into the grandest of endings. For sometimes the most valuable gifts arrive in the most unexpected packages, even if it's just a cat in boots.